Today I'm talking high school. What I've learned after 2 graduates. I can't even believe I'm saying that. My second son will be graduating from our homeschool here in just a few short days. As I am gathering all his graduation stuff and getting ready for the ceremony and the parties and all that fun stuff, I have decided to do this quick video about what I've learned after having 2 sons graduate from our homeschool. I have 2 more children left at home, and these are steps that now that I have graduated my older 2, that I am firmly planting my feet in for my next 2. I have a list here so I don't ramble too much or I don't forget something important. But I have basically 5 or 6 things that I want to cover with you. Things that, as I'm looking back over our homeschool journey, things that mattered, things that I could have done better, things I did well at, things that I won't do again, that sort of thing. So of course, my 2 sons are only 16 months apart. So basically what one got, the other got. I did learn from my first son. And so I was able to tweak some things for my second because they're 2 grades apart, even though they're only 16 months apart. And the first thing that I want to say to you as a homeschool parent of a high schooler, even if it's just that you have a 9th grader, you have a 5th grader. Listen, the number one question I get asked about homeschool is high school. Everyone's scared to death of high school for some reason. I just want to go ahead and tell you it's nothing to be afraid of. I promise. I will tell you just from off the bat, that I had a son go to college who was sought out for an athletic scholarship, and homeschooling did not hurt him in the least bit. He flew through his exams, his entrance exams. He wasn't planning on going to college, so he didn't take the SATs or the ACTs. He took their entrance exam and he placed high in advanced classes, even though he wasn't super studious. And I would say he was the one who struggled academically the most out of all my children. But he flew through college and he did extremely well in college. And so if you have an athlete, I hear that a lot, you worry about getting athletic scholarships. My son did. He had a full ride, and he had a full ride to he had the opportunity to go to several colleges. He got his pick of where to go. And so don't let the fear of high school set you back from discipling your children at home, because it's worth it. So one thing though that totally, I want to say from the get-go is that your children in high school are more than transcripts. They're more than what's written on a piece of paper. Your whole home is more than just what you're going to record on a transcript to hand to college. And so this is something that I learned from my first son. My first son was not academically minded. He didn't love school. And so this is the trap I saw that he was falling into. If it wasn't for a credit, he didn't want to do it, okay? And so there was a lot of things I wanted to teach him, but not necessarily he would get a credit for. So he kind of lost his love for learning in the rat race of transcripts and credits and all that. And so something I tweaked with my second son is I never mentioned credits. And I never mentioned a transcript. And I'm not going to mention it to my daughter either. So yes, there are certain things they get credits for, but they don't know which one's which. We don't sit down and discuss, okay, this is for a credit, but this is only for fun. So if you would like to come in and do this, no. If I think it's worth their time learning, or if it's something they're interested in, even if they don't get a credit for it, they still learn it here. Okay, so we want to foster that love of learning, even in our high school students, because we want them to continue on learning and to continue on being a student, not just for the sake of getting a grade or a credit or whatever it may be. We want them to be students, lifelong students. And I think a lot of times we get caught in that transcript credit kind of trap. and we kind of box our children in, we box our family in, and that kind of leads to my second point, is that you put your family first. Okay, and so what I see a lot, and what I saw with myself with my first son, is I would separate my high schooler and I would keep the rest of my children together, and it would keep this disunity between our family. It drove a wedge in between the rest of us and my high schooler, because they were always separate, always. And sometimes they do. That's just the reality of having a high schooler and an older child. Sometimes they do have to be separate. But what I did differently with my second son that I saw immense fruit from is that we all came together for certain subjects. Even with mine, she would have been in like 7th and 8th grade daughter, and even my younger son, who would have been in around 1st grade when I started doing this. We came together, we did some things together, we did Bible together, beauty subjects together, we went on nature walks. Yes, carry your high schooler on nature walks. Go on field trips with your high schooler. Take them in. Go on picnics together. Go outside and read together. Read aloud to your high schooler. Don't excuse them from read aloud time. And listen, at first you might get kind of especially if they're not used to this kind of thing, you might kind of get an eye roll or, some other kind of attitude problem, but that's a hard issue. And that's something we need to deal with, and that's not so much academics. But once we get past that hard attitude and that discipleship moment, that's a moment of discipleship, then your family can grow and thrive together. And I cannot tell you how rich the last 2 years of our homeschool have been, because I have made a point to put my family first and not transcripts first. Yes, my children get a solid education and they have more than enough credits. They have an advanced diploma when they graduate, okay? But you can do both. You don't have to choose either or. You don't have to choose family or a good education. You can do both together. You just have to learn to be flexible and to bend and twist some things around, okay? My third thing is to prioritize their interest. Now, this is something that I felt like I did well with my first son, and as far as his interest is, he is a professional rodeo guy. So yes, he went to college on a rodeo scholarship, but now he is competing professionally, and that is a career for him. But not only that pursuit, but he also had a leatherworking business. Just putting hobbies first, but not only hobbies and interests that way, but also interests that might lead into other professions. So just see what your child's into. Maybe there's a 4-H program you can get your child into. Look for some extracurricular things that feed into your child's individual needs and their desires. And you would be surprised with time and a little watering what will grow from that. Okay, my next one is, this is a big one. Prepare them for college, even if you think they're not going to college. See, this was my first son. He always said, no, never going to college, not going to, never. Like, he always said he would never go. And like I told you, he is not academically inclined, so I was inclined to believe him. But I had this gut instinct of, I better prepare him just in case. And I'm so thankful I did, because he did. He ended up going to college, and he was the one who played. So even if you do not think that that child will ever go to college, just prepare them. Just act like they might, because you never know what the doors the Lord may open for that child, or what the Lord may work in that child's heart later on in their life. And so if they're prepared to go, good, then they're ready to go. But even like my second son, so I always thought my first one would not go, my second one would go, and it's flopped. Okay, my first one went and my second one is not going. He's going straight into a trade field. And so that's the thing. We don't ever know exactly what the Lord's going to lay out for our children. So let's be prepared either way. Okay, don't just scratch them off that they're not going to college and then you be shocked when they decide they're going. Okay, so it's better be prepared than not prepared on that one. Okay, so this is something that I'm very passionate about, because out of all the things that I've taught my children, I've tried to give them a robust education, a very full education, one that's academically rigorous, and one that's full and wide, like a feast in the Charlotte Mason world. But now that I have children that are out in the real world, one that's been out of school for 2 years, you know what matters? It doesn't matter that he was a slow reader, that he struggled to read at first. It doesn't really matter that he didn't like Latin. It doesn't really matter that he excelled in geography, or, that he excelled in this or that. What matters is his heart toward the Lord. What matters is the doctrine I taught him, and the apologetics I taught him, and the character development that I tried to pursue. In other words, discipleship. That's what matters. At the end of the day, when your children are gone, all that's going to really, really, truly matter for eternity is discipleship. And so, of course, I believe, and you do homeschool well. You do it to the glory of God, and that means preparing them academically. Okay, we don't just excuse ourselves by the excuse of discipleship. Discipleship is part of that education. But this is the thing I hear a lot, is we press for rigor in every other subject except for Bible. We don't like calling Bible a subject. Let me tell you, your children need to be students of the Word. Okay? We don't need to just be consumers. And that's what we've seen in America now, is we're a bunch of consumers. And where has it gotten us? Not very far. We're very shallow as a whole when it comes to Christianity. And it's because we're not students of the Word. We're seekers and not students. And I want my children to be both. I want them to seek the Lord and be students of the Word. And so we have to teach them how to be students of the Word. We need to teach them apologetics, so they have answers to hard questions, that they know what they believe when they walk out our doors, that they know the doctrine that they stand on, they know who they are and what they're made for. Okay, and so that's the heart of what our homeschool should be, is preparing our children for eternity, and not just slacking it off as a daily devotion. Listen, nothing drives me more crazy than just a daily devotion, reading from a small devotional book and thinking that's going to prepare your children to take on the world and the enemy. No, that's not enough. It's not going to be enough. And so, of course, just like we wouldn't stop teaching our children to read at first grade reading level, why would we stop teaching our children to be students of the Word? So at the end of the day, what matters most for my young adult children is, do they know how to follow the Lord? Do they know how to bring glory to the Lord? Do they know how to be a student and not just a seeker? Do they know what they believe and why they believe it? Can they spot a lie of the enemy? Those are fundamental questions that we need to ask ourselves. And even if you have older students and you think, I haven't done a very good job with that, it's plenty of time. If you still have your child in your home, you have time. Do not buy the lie that it's too late. Okay? All right. And my last one is set boundaries. Set boundaries. Listen, teenagers need boundaries. All of us do. Every single person needs a boundary. And this is the thing I've learned with teenagers. If they trust your heart, if they know you're coming from a place of not just control, but they know why you're telling them this boundary, why you're setting this boundary in place, they honor it. They might not like it, but they will honor it. If you explain to them, especially if you can start young and explain to them, okay, this is how dating works, and this is how we're going to handle dating, even if the world doesn't do this. This is how we're going to handle a smartphone, even if the world doesn't do this. And so my boundaries have gotten tighter as I went with my children, because I saw my boundaries weren't tight enough with my first child. And even though I tightened those boundaries with my second one, they still weren't quite tight enough, because it's within boundaries that we learn to thrive. okay? And we learn to grow, and we can have that safe space, kind of like the greenhouse picture. You probably heard that our homes are kind of like a greenhouse, and they prepare that child to go be planted out into the world. And that's kind of what boundaries and discipline is like. And so if our children know the end goal is that you would be a person who glorifies the Lord, that our lives would bring him glory and honor and you fulfillment and you enjoyment. And if we teach them that social media can really scar them for life, and then all of these things will become a natural outset of your home, and they will understand. Even if they don't like it, they'll understand why you have boundaries and why the rules you have set into place are rules. And so those are my top few things of what I've learned having 2 homeschool graduates. If you have any more, if you can add to my list, please just drop your comment down below.